From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink. The North East Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve and Ted.
Right across the North East, the red, the tune and the cat.
Okay, who's singing the jingle? Who's singing
No, it wasn't
jingle?
me. No,
Not me.
No,
Right,
not me.
Figment of my imagination, obviously.
Yeah. Must be hearing things.
Not.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Morning.
2 board draws and a cup exit to discuss this morning, lads. How we're feeling about that?
Is it 9 o'clock yet?
It's a great show.
I think we'll get a better show in the summer, to be honest.
We won't be getting beat.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know,
Anyway,
we've got
Sunderland's-
pre-season.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday.
Good morning.
And here we are, halfway through March already, and Newcastle dumped out the cup. Sunderland stopped the rot, and Borough, another spanner in the playoff works,
Fizzled
especially
out.
with the results.
Fizzled
out, yeah. Probably the best way to describe it. But as always, plenty to talk about on the North East Footy Brekky show. And wow, where do we start? Well, we've got the magic of the FA Cup was alive and well, just not at the Etihad. Coventry City take a bow.
Yeah.
Performance of the weekend this weekend, beating Wolves. Wonderful game that, and just the timings of the goal is what made that special. But Coventry as well with a game against Manchester United, and they pulled off a shock of their own yesterday, and it is a shock because nobody expected them to beat Liverpool, especially with the time ticking away, but they managed to win 4-3 yesterday, and that sets up a mouth-watering tie at Wembley for Coventry against Manchester United, although I think most of us probably imagine that it's going to be Manchester United against Manchester City.
The dodgy draw. Yeah.
Again, another dodgy draw, yeah, except it didn't involve Newcastle this time. In fact, they were probably scrambling around going, hold on a minute, we can't give Newcastle Man City, where are they? We'll talk about local rivalries because Isaac Hayden joins a long list of ex-Newcastle players having a dig at Sunderland. Okay, who's Isaac Hayden? Yes, I know that's what you're going to say. But he's had a dig at Sunderland, so we can talk a little bit about that. Chris Wood, I do want to ask the question, is he the one that got away from Eddie Howe? He didn't want to sell him. The club sold him. At the time it looked like a great deal, especially with a kickback on the FFP, but he scored another crucial goal for Forest. How we could have done with a Chris Wood in the last few games when Isak and Wilson have both been missing. Which player is the one that you've let get away at your club? You can probably send those in on the WhatsApp. And TV coverage, is it getting worse, lads? I think it is. You guys probably have a completely different perspective on this, sitting in Australia and sitting in Cyprus, but me and Dave have to watch the same old rubbish week in, week out. Pundits are getting worse.
We should do it. We should do it.
The commentary is abysmal, so biased at times. And listen, I'm not one for having a maximum representation of one club. And Newcastle did it on BBC on Friday night. On Saturday, sorry, we had Shea Given and Alan Shearer in there. It's wrong. You need one person per club. I think is the right way to do it. Any biased should be squashed out. And Jurgen Klopp made an interesting comment, as he often does. We'll have to enjoy them. I'll have to lap them up because he is on his way out. He said that Liverpool's rivalry with Manchester United he doesn't think it's any bigger or more important than any of the other top teams. So we're going to ask, what is the biggest rivalry?
And he did walk off an interview yesterday.
Oh yes, Sweden. Yeah, I saw that.
Whether it was my mate Jan Agafjordov, because he was over interviewing him before the game, so I'm wondering if Jan asked the wrong questions afterwards and Klopp walked off the interview, just like Sir Alex did with mine when I was at Sky. Get in!
Yep. He wasn't happy as he's joined an exclusive club there. And if we've got time, we'll look ahead because it's international week, international break now. Gareth Southgate has warned Marcus Rashford and Jack Grealish that they face a battle to make Euro 24 squad for Germany. Is he right? Should either of those two go? Is there any wild cards that you think should go? But yes,
we've got WhatsApps.
And WhatsApps.
Already
yes, now you've got.
Two.
You've got a big one. You've got a big one coming. We'll look at that. But we do have to cover.
Can I do the quick one? That's just come in. Ryan Plymouth says, "Morning, Dave, Rye, Ted, and Steve. It's Rye's birthday today."
Oh, happy birthday, Rye!
Yeah, so let's start on a positive. before we get into
12?
depressing club news headlines.
Yeah.
Have a balloon, son.
Let's have the news headlines.
What, jelly and ice cream?
Oh,
sorry, Steve.
Ted, calm down. All right, Rye, you're up first.
Smoggies and
going on about their
Proud.
birthday,
Borough
though.
News.
Good morning, Borough fans. Happy Monday. Middlesbrough played out a luckless draw when Blackburn Rovers came to town. Both teams showing flashes of brilliance, but neither being able to find the back of the net. It took 2 incredible saves from Seti Dieng to keep Blackburn goalless, and it would be Borough's inaccuracy that would let them down. Borough arguably were on top until the 17th minute mark, at which point Marcus Force went down with a bad hamstring injury. Marcus had trouble with his hamstring previously, and unfortunately this one looked even worse. Marcus leaving the ground in tears, which was sad to see for every Borough fan. It just adds to what has been a terrible season for Borough, who were also missing star defender Rav Vandenberg after a bad knee twist he suffered at Birmingham, sending a shock as the team news came out. Borough now head into a 2-week break with international football on the cards. Borough Aussies trio Sammy Silvera, Ryland Green, Tom Glover all head down under to face Lebanon, while Finn Azaz earned his first international call-up to the Republic of Ireland. Seti Dieng will also travel with Senegal, and Paddy McNair will link up with Northern Ireland to complete a total of 6 Borough players given international call-ups in this international break. Borough will then return with 8 games remaining in the season, and with that illustrious playoff spot reaching further away, Borough will know it would most likely take all 8 wins to even get close, but maybe that might not even be enough. As we have a rest, enjoy your couple of weeks without Borough. Back soon, up the Borough.
Magpies and Proud. Mags News.
Newcastle's FA Cup campaign came to an end at the Etihad on Saturday evening as a pair of unfortunate deflections decided the quarter-final tie. 2 first-half Bernardo Silva shots wickedly ricocheted off Dan Burn and Sven Botman, and Alexander Isak failed to convert either of a pair of chances that could have given his side a foothold in the contest. There was better news for Newcastle's women's team as goals from Elson McQuaid and Barker saw them come from 2-0 down to win 3-2 at Wolves yesterday, which sees them maintain their lead at the top of the table. And despite a 4-1 win at Nottingham Forest last weekend, Saturday saw Newcastle under-18s again struggle on home territory, Stoke becoming the 5th successive team to leave Little Benton with maximum points, winning by 4-2. There has been confirmation that Newcastle's under-21s will face Ashington in their Northumberland Senior Cup semi-final at Woodhorn Lane on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. Kick-off will be at 7:30. That's your Newcastle headlines on Monday morning.
Mackems and Proud. Black Cats News.
Good morning, Sunderland fans. The Sunderland players were once again criticised for their toothless performances against QPR at the weekend, but one man who came out under praise was keeper Anthony Patterson. The 23-year-old bagged his 9th clean sheet of the campaign on Saturday, pulling off an unbelievable save late on to ensure Sunderland didn't fall to defeat once again. The clean sheet also marked Pato's 100th consecutive start in the league, which given his age is a highly commendable achievement. One of the names on the bench that may have stood out to Sunderland fans at the weekend was Oliver Bainbridge, who made the senior Black Cat squad for the first ever time. The 18-year-old left-back may not be around for much longer though, as he's now been targeted by a Premier League club ahead of the summer. Everton were reportedly keeping tabs on Bainbridge following his performances at under-21 level this season. He's tipped to get into the Black Cat side before season reaches its conclusion, so fans can probably expect to see the teenager make more appearances in the squad over the final weeks of this season. And finally, Sunderland women suffered a narrow defeat against London City Lionesses at Princes Park yesterday. Ruisha Littlejohn's first half strike was the difference between the two sides as the hosts claimed the 3 points. The Lasses do remain top by a point, with Palace just behind with a game in hand. The Black Cats women will be looking to bounce back, and the River Weir Derby is up next as they host Durham women at Eppleton next Sunday, kick off at 2 p.m. There are your Sunderland headlines.
And the cat.
Okay, welcome back to the North East Footy Brekky show. Newcastle United crashed out of the FA Cup at the weekend, and 2-0 didn't really tell the full story. It got to be said, our lads were second best in every department in the game. Obviously, Manchester City defending FA Cup holders cruised to victory with a 70% possession stat and 16 goal attempts compared to just 2 from Newcastle, which fell Alexander Isak, which I mentioned in my headlines. Dubravka, probably the man of the match for me, made some vital saves again to keep the score down. There was a quadruple substitution in the game, which I think was probably the biggest talking point on Twitter, other than Eddie Howe's job after the match, because it did inject some life into the flagging away side's performance. I thought there was shoots of life in Lewis Hall in particular, who we've seen virtually nothing of, who came on and looked as if he should be on that stage week after week. Lewis Miley again, came on and he's played more games than he could ever have imagined this season due to the injury list that we've had. But again, injected some pace, some enthusiasm, and a will to win. And Miggy Almiron, who I've got to say has probably been down in the dumps since he was told he was surplus to requirements in January, and Newcastle tried to push him out the door to Saudi. As he came on, and at least he gave it 100%. And I think there was, as Alan Shearer pointed out on the coverage on Match of the Day, 3 or 4 players who literally have just gone through the motions and don't look as if they're putting the effort in. And that kind of performance, it really does hang Eddie Howe out to dry at times. It was a big blow losing Tino Livramento before the start of the match. He's got a foot injury, just another injury to add to the list. Obviously, Kieran Trippier already out. Jamal Lascelles, he couldn't complain at his performance. He came in once again, club captain, and performed to the best of his ability. We all know he's not on the level of Man City, but he can certainly do a job, and he didn't let us down. But yeah, I mean, the inevitable happened. We're out, and it's quite interesting, because if this season had been the previous season, and the previous season had been this season, we would have all been saying it's steady progression, and it's great progression. And I think it shows that last season's achievements probably have Newcastle fans thinking at a different level, and we've got to get some perspective here. I do think the season is over for us as far as European football is concerned. I'm not sure whether, with the luck that we've had with injuries and with the way that the players are feeling, I'm not 100% sure we can qualify for Europe. And that for me is why I feel like the season is over. I don't think the lads will have the flip-flops on, but I also feel that Eddie Howe will stick with the players that have got him this far, and I think he should just take a gamble and give an opportunity to the likes of Lewis Miley and Lewis Hall and say, give it a go, lads, enjoy yourselves. Lewis Miley clearly doesn't need protecting. He doesn't need to be rested. He wants games. If Elliot Anderson is fit, get him back in the team. Give him a good run. He earned it at the back of last season to have a good run this season. It should have been his year. But go for it this season, with players who clearly have got the energy and who aren't carrying the knocks, and let them go for it. But as soon as the draw came out, I didn't expect us to win this game. My prediction was that we could get the penalties and then take a flip of the coin and hope that Man City miss and we don't miss any. But overall, it felt very much like a muchness. But I think there's a bit of realism hitting Newcastle United supporters on Monday morning, and we are where we are. It's not a disaster. We're not scrabbling around at the bottom of the table hoping to stay up. We've hit 40 points. Anything else is a bonus. And if we get Europe, then Eddie, well done. But more of the talk has been about whether he'll still be in a job. Lots of rumours coming from certain areas, some unsubstantiated Twitter accounts, some from journalists by putting out cryptic tweets. But overall, I still think Eddie will be here at the start of next season. I don't think anything will change. Right, did you manage to see the game?
I did. Yep, I did. It was at ungodly hours. Your 5 p.m. kickoff, I believe, was like 5:30 a.m. for me. But I was up chatting to Radio Dad, as we do after games, and we text and send photos to each other and stuff like that. Sorry for outing you there, Radio Dad.
Thanks, mate. I thought all of us was true.
I thought it was a good game, honestly, until it was just 2 deflected goals, which was just yuck. I mean, in an FA Cup, we saw how good Man United and Liverpool game could be, and then on that flip side, it was just disappointing just to see 2 deflected goals. It wasn't like an all-out sort of spectacular game, unfortunately. And Man City, I felt, were a bit more dug in than I expected them to be. Obviously, Newcastle set up quite defensively themselves, but it wasn't the most prettiest of games. I thought Doku I believe he looks exciting for Man City down that wing, and we hope that the FFP take a leaf out of his last name as well in years to come. But we'll see what happens. And yeah, it was just a sad way to go. The big interesting thing for me from it, Steve, was Bruno after the game on Twitter saying that we've got a few games left now to save our season. And to see him saying the words "save our season," I thought was quite interesting, because I mean you're not in relegation, you know what I mean, but you've obviously dropped out of Champions League, you've dropped out of that Europa spot, so there must be this feeling of disappointment within the Newcastle camp that to say that they need to save their season in these last few Premier League games. I mean, it's a real change of attitude from the playing group that, unfortunately no FA Cup, no Carling Cup, no Champions League, and then sitting 10th or so in the Premier League is not right for them, and and they want to save their season by getting higher, which I mean is a good attitude to have running in. But I thought it was a strange comment, considering I thought that Newcastle have done well under the circumstances of FFP, Eddie Howe in his second in his first time doing Champions League football and everything like that. So yeah, it was a sad game to see just 2 deflected goals, nothing sort of spectacular, but yeah, Man City just seem to find a way, don't they? All the time, they just seem to find a way.
Ted?
Yeah, I mean, I took something from the game in terms of Shearer's analysis, to be honest, and about those deflected goals. And he was quite critical of Newcastle about that, saying that if the deflected goals, then the defender's not close enough to the striker of the ball. And I see where he's coming from with that. So, yeah, I mean, the first half, let's be honest, Newcastle weren't good enough in the first half. And whether the deflected goals or not, they're there to try and block play. They know how dangerous Man City are. They just didn't get it right. The second thing for me as well is, yeah, absolutely. Second half, I think Newcastle were a lot better. And the 4 substitutes, the quadruple substitution certainly helped with that. But again, for me, that's almost like an admission from Eddie Howe that he got it completely wrong for the first half in terms of his setup and his selection. I mean, it's Manchester City, so what are you going to do? Because they can pretty much pick any team apart they want on their day. We've only seen them really choke once all season, and that was a draw at Liverpool, which isn't exactly a disgrace of a result. So yeah, it was. I'm sure Newcastle fans are disappointed. They maybe wanted to see a little bit more going into the game, like you say. Seeing Hall come on, I like you, Steve, I can't understand why he's not getting a regular game or a more regular game, because for me, he looks like he's heaps better than Byrne in that position. He's a lot more of what I would call a modern fullback. So yeah, disappointing obviously for the Geordies, but let's be honest, I think it was a very professional performance from Man City. I don't think they really had to get out the third gear, which, let's face it, they can beat anyone on their day, Steve. It's no disgrace in Newcastle. Yeah, Bruno's right. I think it's a few games to rescue the season in terms of, they've got to put everything they can now. There's no distractions, everything they can into finishing in a European position. Can they do it? It's in the lap of the gods, really, isn't it?
It is. I know we've got a WhatsApp in from one of our regulars, Dave, before we go to an ad break. What's the WhatsApp say?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty apt that we do it now. We've got to say good morning, not just to Rai, who's come back and said, by the way, I'm 35 in Plymouth. It's Matty who sent the Newcastle WhatsApp in. He says, morning, lads. And it's a bit of a long one, this. Morning, lads. Where do I start on the Newcastle game? We expected to get beat by Man City, but I don't know if Steve noticed Eddie Howe looks like he's under massive pressure. The tweet was spot on, mate. The season is over, and for me, the board is now going to sack him. If they're going to do it, then they might as well do it, because we probably know it's coming. There's been far too many manager links. We may think he deserves another season, but does the board? That's the $1 million question. I couldn't believe Dan Byrne was playing at left wing back. Hall was great when he came on. Longstaff getting injections, was clearly injured. He still plays him. Botman limping off. He needs surgery on the knee Bruno, I get the Bruno comments after the game. 10 games to save our season. I reckon he will be off in the summer. And I find it absolutely bizarre that we're playing a game in Melbourne, Australia, 3 days after the season ends against Spurs. So quite a bit of meat to get your teeth into there, Steve.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the Bruno thing is it is concerning, I guess, because we know that he's got a release clause in his contract, and that could be triggered in the summer if Newcastle don't get Europe. So, yeah, lots of doom and gloom, I guess, around the club at the moment. The international break probably comes at a good time. A trip to Dubai for those who aren't in international duty to lick their wounds, and then a huge game coming up against West Ham at home, and I think we'll know a bit more about Newcastle's team once we get that game over and done with. If Newcastle can comprehensively beat West Ham, they give themselves a great platform to start the next 9 games and chase European football. If they lose against West Ham, I think the knives will be out, to be honest. But it's one of those situations which I didn't see coming at the start of the season. I really thought Newcastle would move on and progress. I was very, very confident, but just could never have seen all these injuries. It's sad. It's a sad end, but like I say, we've been in a hell of a lot worse positions. Just got to be thankful that we're going to be in the Premier League next season. We can reboot and we can start again. But they need to give Eddie Howe an opportunity to continue next year. They need to give him some money to spend, back him in the window in the summer, and give him that opportunity. That's what I think should happen. But whether it will or not, I don't know. It's the only people who can answer that question are the people who don't talk, and that's PIF. So it's an interesting summer ahead.
Righto. What are we? 23, 24 minutes past 7. Time for a quick break. We'll be right back. What we're chatting about next, lads?
Well, we are going to move on to Sunderland and Borough's results.
Okay, then. So let's talk Garden.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, I thought you might. We'll be back across the North East on the Count, the Red and the Toon after this.
Together across the North East.
The Toon, the Count and the Red.
Welcome back to the North East Footy Brekky show. We've heard how Newcastle got on at the weekend. It's time to drop into the Championship and see how our two teams got on. Let's go with the High Flyers. Middlesbrough first. Right. Why are you laughing, Ted?
Can we not just say, boys, at this moment in time, can we not just say Borough drew, Sunderland drew, let's move on?
No. Got strict timings on my show.
I actually thought it was a decent performance from the Borough. I know Borough fans probably hate for that, but I'm ever the optimist. There was lots of boos at the 90th minute, which I thought was a bit rude. And look, I'm just going to be, again, the optimist, the happy Larry, and shoot me down, Borough fans, if I am. But I just felt the boos were unwarranted.
He was Australian, by the way, right? He was Australian. Yeah. Larry, he was the man who everybody is happy as. He was Australian, so good lad.
He was, happy as Larry, exactly. So, yeah, look, I think it's I think it was a decent to have four games in a row where we haven't lost. I mean, a clean sheet again as well. Senny Dieng, if you can't win them, at least don't lose. And, we've been losing those types of games where it was to 1-0, 2-0, and that was when we were on that horrid run. Now, if we'd be in a lot different position sitting here Monday morning if we would have lost that 1-0. And it was thanks to Senny Dieng's great saves that we were, were unable to. Yes, Sammy Silvera missed one in the end there. But the Marcus Force injury, I think, sort of killed our momentum as well in that 17th minute. The hamstring to him was just so devastating to see. And to see a bloke like him, who just gives his all when he's on the pitch, go off crying in tears because he knows his hamstring. And you'd think that's his season now because such was the emotion from that man that was sort of a killer as well for the boys. When you see one of your good mates limping off with a bad hamstring injury. So I think, overall the result wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't bad at the same time. I think Borough dug in. We managed to find a way to get a point, and that's what you need to do. Good teams need to find a way to either win or not to lose, and we did that, on the day, and that's four games now on the bounce where we haven't lost. Now, playoffs, everyone seems to be, I think, concerned with that, and reasons, I think Blackburn were there for the taking 100%. I would agree with you that we should have, but we've got injuries. We've got goal scorers that are just coming back from injury. We've got one recognised striker now in Latte Lath, I think we're doing the best we can. And, we're not going to throw away the playoffs, but I think it's sort of becoming uncatchable for us anyway. And that, as I said last week, that I never wanted to focus on the playoffs because it just creates this false hope or this bigger expectation on the Borough lads. And I just want them to be playing good football enjoying time under Carrick, get Carrick a new contract, and build into next season now. If we go into this summer with these next 8 games with 8 losses, you can guarantee that your Riley McGrees, your senior figures, your Izzy Jones, these boys that are up for a new contract, aren't probably going to buy into what Borough are trying to do next season. And that makes for a tough summer of trying to hang on to them. But if we go in with a few more wins, we get close to the playoffs, we get to whatever it may be, Carrick gets a new contract, then that's easier to sell next season's image to, one, recruiting new players, and also the players that we want to keep around in Riley McGree, Izzy Jones, and the like. So I just want that to be Borough's focus now, is enjoying their football, creating a good atmosphere, creating a good base of football so that we know what the fans are buying into next season. We know what the club's buying into next season. We can promote that image. We can sell that image, not only to the players that are already here, but the players we want to recruit. So all in all, bit of a bore draw, but I still enjoyed sitting down watching the Borough. And we got an international break now where we hopefully can find a couple of those injuries returning in Hayden Hackney, especially being the big one there as well, because Carrick said he's not too far away. So fingers crossed. That's how the next 2 weeks look for the Borough. But time to rest, recover, and see what we can come up with for the last 8 games, boys.
Ted, a 0-0 draw. We'll come to yours in a minute, but I thought Middlesbrough still had a little chance of the playoffs, but the results again went against Middlesbrough, and it looks like their season is gonna wilt away as well.
Sorry, mate, I just lost you for a second there. I do apologise.
I'm saying Middlesbrough's season looks as if it's going to wilt away as well. I thought they were probably going to have a chance to get to the playoffs, but the way the results have gone against them.
Yeah, listen, Blackburn, it's no disgrace getting a draw against Blackburn. For me, they really are in a false position in the league because they've got a very talented squad there, and I think they've got the right man in charge now to take them forward as well. I only wish he was in our dugout, to be honest. He would have been a great one for us to have. It isn't the case. But yeah, listen, Blackburn are on their way back, and they will grind out results like that, and they'll frustrate teams. And yet, a little bit maybe over the top from the Borough fans to boo the team on the 90th minute. I don't agree with that. I think they've been in excellent form. You don't get 3 wins off the belt by being a bad team. So a 0-0 draw against Blackburn, it's frustrating, it's a bit dull, it doesn't exactly enthuse you for the weekend, but hey, a point is a point, and if you'd offered Middlesbrough fans 10 points out of 4 games, they would have snatched your hand off. Exactly. So it's not a bad one. Whereas us, do you want me to go, Steve?
Yeah, do it. I mean, lots to talk about, isn't there, with Sunderland as always? And I mean, a 0-0 draw. Against Queen's Park Rangers, it stopped the rot, Keith. I mean, Ted.
It hasn't at all. At all. It's not done it. No. It's mathematically it has, Steve. You're right. It's stopped us getting beat, but it's winless in 7. That's all I see. It was to be honest, that draw was worse than the defeat at Southampton. For me, literally not managing a shot on target against a team that's been relegation threatened all season. Not one shot on target in 90 minutes was just absolutely horrendous. Literally, I mean, I made a point of saying it in the headlines as well. The only person to come off that pitch with any sort of credit was Anthony Patterson, who kept us in the game. 2 really, really good saves in that game, among many more, but 2 that particularly stood out were excellent. But the side's just, it's gone. The pace, that bit of sparkle that they had's completely gone. We haven't got a striker who can finish chances. The 3 stand-ins that we've got at the minute, the only one, Mundle has got a future without a doubt. I can see it. He's just not championship ready. I honestly think he should maybe have the sort of player where you go and give him a loan season in League One and get him toughened up a bit. He'll get a bit of confidence about him and then come into the side. That's not the case. He's been thrust in there. Abdullah Bar is not a left winger, not by any stretch of the imagination. Hemir isn't the answer to any question that you will ever ask me, to be honest. One of the rare counter-attacking opportunities that we had on Saturday. He carried the ball about 15 yards, so he had about another 30 to go, and rather than get his head down and run at the sole defender that was left, completely lost all ability, all confidence, and just played a backward pass. And that's a much more like common thing that we're seeing in the side now, is this no flowing forward like what we used to. I mean, there was goals were scored, one particular one against Reading a couple of seasons back that typified the way that Mowbray's team was playing. It was just this beautiful sweep and move up the pitch, and we looked so deadly in those situations.
But just earlier in the season, Ted, we were all scratching our heads wondering how the heck you're scoring so many goals from so many different positions, but that seems to have ended.
Well, yeah, because
Mowbray's gone. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's the style of play. I mean, look, I even said at the weekend in a little piece I wrote that even those the Mike Dodds thing, yes, he won the 2 games before McBeal came in. Let's not be under any kind of disillusion here. That was Tony Mowbray's side and Tony Mowbray's game plan, because it was right after the sacking. Dodds hadn't had to do anything for it, and to be honest, I'm just getting bored of his press conferences now. I didn't even listen to the one after the game. I couldn't be bothered with it, because I thought, well, it's either going to be we take the positives out of the game, or we were too slow and too pedestrian. As it turns out, apparently it was the too slow and too pedestrian option. It's just getting monotonous with what he's saying. It's just ridiculous. He's not right for the role, and he may be a really good coach on the training pitch, but he's not a head man. Now, what they will have to do, or what the now we're getting to the crux, because there was a rumour broke online yesterday on the SAFC Fans TV site on YouTube, saying that they'd had a rumour that the club may be up for sale, with an asking price of reportedly £75 million, which probably, on the basis of things, that's probably about right in terms of in terms of value after getting into the Championship, all that sort of thing, facilities, everything else.
What do you buy it for?
40, I think.
Right, okay.
But obviously that was a League One club. You've added value with the likes of Jack Clark, with Paddy Roberts coming to the club. So, I mean, Clark and himself at this moment in time is probably worth 20 of that. You know, so it makes sense, the sort of figure they've been talking about. At this stage, obviously, it is just a rumour. But it does make you ask the question, well, look, we've been absolutely horrendous for 7 games in a row, and you're starting to think, well, really, we do need to make a permanent appointment sooner rather than later, because if we continue in this vein, we become less and less attractive for a potential manager coming in. Is Will still really going to be enthused by a side that finishes 16th in the Championship, as opposed to in the top end and just missing out on playoffs? Probably not. However, you know, if it's something where they are, you know, not appointing a manager because potential new owners may want to put their own man in anyway, that's a totally different thing. And to be honest, I think we're starting to get there now with this stage where there's a lack of investment in the playing side. There absolutely is. You know, you can see that. There's this reluctance to get anybody experienced in. They won't even get Kiefer Moore in on loan. Yes, it was 40 grand a week. Yes, there's question marks whether he want to come anyway. But if you offer the money, a footballer is more likely to come. That's as simple as that. So yeah, the lack of investment tells me that maybe they are just battening down the hatches. Maybe they will sell Jack Clark in the summer just to kind of go, well, that's my little bit. I'll sell the club for X amount, and that's us done. And for me, sometimes it's better the devil you know, but I just feel like we're stuck in a rut now. We are actually going backwards again, which is a little bit scary. And this side that we've got now, this squad that we've got now, without Jack Clark, and without a couple of players who I think will also... Anthony Patterson is being tipped to go to Manchester City in the summer to be understudy, because Ortega's, you know, he's getting on a bit, and I don't think they're going to renew his contract. Now, if I was Anthony Patterson looking at Ortega playing in, you know, FA Cup games and things like that, he's probably going, hey, yeah, I fancy a bit of that. Without Patterson, without Jack Clark, and possibly without Dan Ballard as well, sorry, but that squad's not good enough to stay in the Championship next season. It's not. It's as simple as that. So fresh investment is needed, whether that comes from Kira Louis-Dreyfus or whether it comes from new ownership. It has been mentioned before that there was potential Arabian investment, there's been potential American investment. Wherever it comes from, it needs to happen because we are going to be in deep, deep trouble next season if we don't improve on that playing side and get a decent head coach in as well.
Dave, what's your take on the two games that we saw at the weekend?
I suppose it's much of a muchness from a result perspective, but I think there were two different games. Sunderland, I didn't see the performance, I've got to be honest, because I was watching the Borough. I was at the Riverside.
Neither did the fans in the stadium.
Oh, was it that bad? But all that I'm reading and hearing was it wasn't good. And yes, it's a point. It stopped the run of defeats, but it was not pretty. So I mean, that's all I can take from what I've read on the game, which. Is it half a step forward because at least the losing run has stopped? Ted says no. He said it hasn't stopped, the rot whatsoever. So I've got to take his view on that. I read his piece. He wrote for the Cat, which is not pleasant. For the Borough, I refused to use those two words last week, play and offs, because we've been far too inconsistent just to let 3 successive wins mean we're good enough, and suddenly for some reason we can continue that run and be consistent, which we haven't been all season. And that's where I thought our Achilles heel is consistency. I just felt there was a Blackburn performance just around the corner, and it happened at the weekend. So for me, the season ended a couple of weeks ago. Look, fantastic. We had 3 straight wins and picked up 9 points, 10 points in 4 games, which you're dead right. Borough fans would have snapped your hands off after just before the Norwich game, after the Stoke City game and the Plymouth game. It's a case for both teams now. It's mid-table mediocrity. You're not going down, Ted. You're safe for next season. You'll get enough points between now and the end of the season, like Borough will. We're not going to uproot any trees. I'm going to sound like a broken record. I want to see some young kids given the chance at the Riverside, just to see whether they can make it to the Championship. Let's dip them in and dip them out. Let's not throw the season away, of course, but let's just blood a couple of these youngsters that are coming through the academy. That a lot of people are telling us. A lot of people are telling us. I'm only saying a couple, not a full team, mate. Let's see if they've got the talent and they're as ready as mutterings are suggesting. So, for me, yeah, look, disappointing. I was as frustrated as anybody else that we didn't get the win. There were opportunities to win the game from a Borough's perspective. We didn't take them, but since when's that been a new record for this season? It's the broken record that continues. We've got a couple of WhatsApps in, actually. First up is Al's, who's in the Ionian Islands, big Newcastle fan. None of the 3 North East teams got thrashed. Keep the faith. NUFC play teams around us, so it's in our own hands. How are the lads? So that's that one. We've had another one whiz in from Jack, who's a Borough fan. Morning, lads. Happy Monday. Loving the show as always. We do like a bit of positivity at the start. Good lad. Hope you've all had a great weekend. Thanks for the Bernie and David Weeder tickets last Wednesday. I don't think I'd be eating a parmo and singing karaoke with Big Wheats. But I did. Got to get the match. Got to go to the match too. We looked really good in parts. A few players, absolute stinkers though, but a clean sheet. The first 0-0, I think, of the season. On to the next game, up the Borough. And one more that's just come in. This has come in from Matty, who sent us the big one earlier on. Question for Ted. Is Sunderland up for sale? There are rumours out there that KLD took 10 million. Now, we won't go there. He's put the club up for sale. So, I mean, you mentioned that. It's rumours. How deep are those rumours?
Well, put it this way, the guy who's broke it was also the guy who broke Mick Beale to Sunderland, so he's got form for being right on these things. Oh, there's a magpie just landed on the telegraph pole outside my window.
A sign.
As if this day couldn't get any worse.
Steve sent it for you.
Cheers, Mr. Wraith. You can take it back, though. Thanks, mate. Yeah, listen, it's a rumour, but it's a rumour from a source that has got things right in the past. You never know.
Okay, we're going to have a quick break. After that, we're going to come back and talk about Isaac Hayden, who in his after-match interview at the Stadium of Light was rather derogatory towards Sunderland fans. And he's not the only Newcastle player who's had form doing this exactly. But we will be back after this.
Hello, Alan Wicker here. Ever get the impression that I've been everywhere? Well, it's true, I have been everywhere. And today I'm going to be everywhere inside your radio. Here I am in your left speaker to tell you that Travelocity offers a fare watcher service which can find you the right flight at the right price. And here I am in your right speaker to tell you that when you type in where you want to go, Fare Watcher will email you updates on the best deals. And here I am in the woofers to say Travelocity.co.uk.
And here I am in the tweeters to say, hello world.
Atoll protected.
Hey, what you doing after breakfast Monday to Friday? Why not join me, Daz, across the North East for our mid-morning show, full of expert analysis.
This Sunderland squad is the youngest squad that the Championship has ever seen.
Top banter.
I've been looking at trains for any Middlesbrough fans. It's an hour and 3 minutes. That's all it takes to get yourselves up here and see some real football.
And the quiz that is sweeping the nation, name that theme. How many will you get? He's always on the scene. Fireman Sam. And his engine's bright and clean. Join me, Daz, right here every weekday morning from 9 till 11.
I love this banter because this is what the Red, the Cat and the Toon's all about.
The Red, the Cat and the Toon.
Isaac Hayden had a quip at Sunderland this weekend. He said, I've never played here. They were always a bit far away from Newcastle, to be honest, in terms of league, so I never got to play here. It's a good stadium, to be fair. They packed it out today, which they don't always do. Isaac Hayden joins a long list of former Newcastle players to have a little pop at Sunderland in interviews. Joey Barton, of course, regularly does this. Yes. How does it make you feel, Ted? And we'll widen it out as well. How does it make football fans of clubs feel when they hear a player from another club have a pop? Does it bother you, really? We see lots of words written on social media and articles written on fans forums, but does it really get to you?
2 seconds, mate. I'm just Googling Isaac Hayden. 2 seconds. No.
Yeah. No.
Isaac Hayes. No.
No, not Isaac Hayes. Don't go down that. Yeah. Don't go down that
route. No, not chef. Definitely not. Yes, not the recipe we want to discuss. Anyway, if it was a Newcastle player of any note, then obviously it would get bites, like Joey Barton used to get bites out of us. Absolutely, somebody who actually played a bit of football, did all right for Newcastle, had a bit of a career, I suppose. Jack Colback got dog's abuse, obviously, because he was former Sunderland, that dared to cross that line and go to Newcastle United. So he got a tough time of it. I didn't even know Isaac Hayden was on the pitch till you mentioned it, mate, to be honest with you. He is right, though. We were separated by a league because he was signed after we beat Newcastle 6 in a row. And he actually signed for Newcastle in the Championship in 2016-17. So that's why he didn't see us for that season, certainly because we were up in the Premier League. Following that, Isaac Hayden, well, he wasn't even named in their squad in the 21-22 season. Then he's been on loan to Norwich, Standard Liège, and he's at Queen's Park Rangers now. So basically, Isaac Hayden's a Championship player that's not good enough for Newcastle United. We didn't even know he was there. His opinion counts for naught, mate, to be honest. It's nothing, really. The quips about the stadium, about the attendance, he's a reserve team player at best, mate. It doesn't matter. There are the classics. Craig Bellamy, he was the one who could always wind the crowd up. Players that were decent. I think there's almost a bit of respect there from the fans when it's a good player that's trying to goad us. or certainly somebody with a bit of notoriety like a Joey Barton, someone like that, yeah, of course will rise to the bait, but somebody like Isaac Hayden, mate, it's a little bit embarrassing. Who was the other one who tried to do it ages ago? It was Danny Simpson.
Stephen Taylor did it as well. I mean, that was when Stephen Taylor got death threats, if you remember. He said he'd rather collect stamps than play for Sunderland, because there'd been some rumours that there was rumours that he'd had considered signing for Sunderland very early in his career, and when he came out with that, it was before a derby match, of course, so things are heated anyway then. But yeah, I mean, Danny Simpson's another one who's come out with a quip as well. It seems to be that era, doesn't it? That era of players that, you know, I mean, they've all been well, you could say that for the last 60 years, mate. But we've got so many players from one dressing room. Like, you know, they were all in and around the same period of time. It almost seems to have become a thing now. Oh, let's have a pop at Sunderland. That'll get us a bit of credit in the media, you know?
Yeah, that's where it stinks of a little bit. I mean, Stephen Taylor, I mean, is he still at that massive club, Portland Timbers, or is he finished now?
Tell you what, he's done well, mate. He's done well. Taylor's done well. He's managed to carve a career out of football around the world and have some decent holidays.
The biggest hit he ever had in football, mate, was clattering into a post in the derby. He was nothing. I don't think he was even good enough for Newcastle United back then, mate. He was just a little bit mouthy.
We've got a WhatsApp to add to this one, and I've got to be very careful where I tread here. Very careful. So it's Al's in the Ionian Islands, and he went, hang on a minute, my hero, Clarkey did it. He did the biz with a T-shirt.
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, I mean, that was
still advised.
He was, yeah. God, we've talked about that many times.
I'll stick up for Clarkey because he was fantastic for us. He was one of the best midfielders that, in around that time, that Reid era. Had that not happened, and obviously the backlash was massive, and you'll know about this, Steve, as well, because you've probably spoken to him a lot more than what most fans have. He was a fantastic player for us. It was more disappointment from Sunderland fans than it was anger, to be honest. That one, that's a different scenario.
Yeah, oh, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. Right, I mean, bringing you in on this, what did you make of Isaac Hayden's comments at the weekend?
I think Isaac Hayden's one of the generational players. I think he's a fantastic player. I think you guys have undeservedly knocked him. I think he's up for Ballon d'Or, and his comments are absolutely fantastic. That you can tell with what he said about Sunderland that he's got a brain on him. He's one of the smartest footballers going around. We versed him the other week against QPR. When he came on, my goodness, it changed the game completely. They took Ilya's chair off and brought him on, and we were scared, Aspara. We still won 2-0. But I tell you what, Isaac Hayden, you are some player, and you are some smart man, mate. I tell you, because I sit there right with you, Hayden, and I look around and I try and count the fans in Sunderland, just like the bloke does who gives the official attendances, and he goes 1, 2, 41,000 will do. And that's how they sort of come up with it. And I'm really, and I think, Isaac, we should get you on the show, because I think you just talk nothing but sense, to be honest with you.
Wow. Ted? I feel like a referee.
The silence.
Mate, it doesn't even warrant a response. I mean, there was a bit of sarcasm thrown in there as well. It was quite subtle.
Before we move on, a plug for the three legends. Als, I'm sure you're across it, mate. But Friday night, 6:00, Clarkey is the Newcastle legend on the three legends. So if you haven't heard the show, get on to the stations on a Friday night, 6:00 UK time. What's the Ionian Islands? Is it 2 hours ahead? Is it 8:00 their time? 8 p.m.
Yeah, like I believe so. Yeah,
6 p.m. UK time. Anyway, Els. Sorry, guys.
If Isaac does want to come on the show, though, Steve, and talk about his career, I'm sure we've got a spare 2 minutes, haven't we?
Hey. To be fair to him, he did very well for Newcastle in the Championship. He was a good player. Got injured, and never really recovered. But yes. Player. Yeah, well, you obviously won him for Borough by the sounds of it. The magic of the FA Cup, it's a phrase that is uttered every year, and a lot of people had felt that the magic of the FA Cup had disappeared.
Oh, not the weekend, mate.
Coventry have certainly just brought back some wonderful memories of their FA Cup win back in the 80s, and that result at the weekend against Premiership Wolves was fantastic. They took the lead early in the second half, but they did look set for heartbreak when Wolves scored 2 quick-fire goals, and it looked all over. But there was 9 minutes of stoppage time added at the end, and Coventry were given a chance. They took it through Ellis Sims. He equalised in the 97th minute. And there was almost a wonderful bit of commentary. I can't remember who was commentating on the game. It was almost like the 1966 World Cup final. He went, "Coventry can't do it, can they?" And of course they did. Hadji Wright scored the stunning winner in the 10th minute of added time, and the Coventry City fans went wild. What a story! What a competition! And what a draw. Manchester United at Wembley. It's the first visit to a semi-final for Coventry since 1987. And great for the championship. I know that, Ted, you're not a huge fan of Coventry City for obvious reasons. Sunderland fans can't stand them. But this really, from a championship's perspective, was a classic. It's great to see a team, no matter who it is, putting your rivalry aside. It's great to see a lower league team, busting the gut to get through, and they went for it. And they got their just desserts. And they've got a great draw against Manchester United. If the real Manchester United turn up, I don't think they'll have much of a chance of getting through. But you never know which Manchester United's going to turn up these days. And Coventry, you can't write them off at Wembley. It's a huge occasion. Could they go that step further? But yeah, big result for them. They've had their day, and again, financially, a good earner for them as well, Ted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. I mean, what a game of football. I'm no Coventry City fan, no Sunderland fan is, to be fair. But you've got to respect that and stick it in. And I mean, you talk about ones that got away. Ellis Sims obviously was on loan at Sunderland. Everton took him back when Frank Lampard was making a disaster of his career, and the rest is history. But he seems to be finding form again. He had a very bad start to the season, to be honest with you. He wasn't performing at all anywhere near the standard that was expected, but he came up with the goods, and against Wolves as well. Obviously, a little bit of a derby kind of feel about that. It was played like one, and when you get situations like this with a 90-minute game, obviously you hark back to the League Cup semi-final with Borough against Chelsea. If that's a one-off game, Borough are in the final. It's simple as that. They've done it. They've beat them, albeit on home turf, but that's it. And I think when you get these 90-minute one-off games, Coventry City have actually got a chance here, because you're exactly right in what you're saying. Manchester United got themselves well up for that game because it's Liverpool. Of course they do. And we saw a performance from Man United that maybe exceeded everyone's expectations there. Whether they can get themselves up for Coventry City in the same way is a different thing. They've got to be very careful, because Mark Robins has these, very, very well drilled. And Robins himself, who rescued the career of Manchester United's most successful manager ever, in fact, probably world football's most successful manager ever, he'll be wanting to do one against his old club as well. Absolutely. And it's just made for Mark Robins.
Did one against the ball boy.
Sorry?
So he let himself down. He did one his celebration for the winner. He went and goaded the ball boy, didn't he?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up when they came to me. But yeah, obviously, Mark Robins in his celebration right at the end minute got really, really obviously excited. He was very, very enthused with that win, and he celebrated, and it just happened to be right in front of a young Wolves ball boy who started to cry. So we do feel bad for him. And Gary O'Neill coming out saying that he thought he went over and shook everyone's hands after the game. He went and said, thanks for, it was a good game between the two teams, and he was respectful. But then in his press match conference saying afterwards that he thought Mark Robins was disgusting in the way he celebrated. Not happy was Gary O'Neill, but coming from the bloke who wanted to get a red carded so he could watch the Masters golf at the Borough, we all know how that feels. But yeah, Coventry and Borough, just like Sunderland, seem to have this weird rivalry, and it's always on Twitter and stuff like that. But it was good to see a big upset, and that's what the FA Cup's for. And you're absolutely right, Teddy Boy. I love that comment as well about just the one-off games, and I think we should see more of that because 2 legs seems to create more of that chance for the bigger teams to come back, I guess you could say. But if we have those one-off games, anything can really happen, and I really like that. And I love to see, an underdog, if you will. Obviously, if they get Man United and they get good Man United on their day, then it'll be all over red, and that gap sort of between the Championship and Premier League continues to be quite large, Teddy Boy.
I'm more than happy to remind the world about Mark Robbins' shortcomings after that cross he put in for Emile Heskey in 97 to equalise at Wembley against the Borough and send it into a replay which Leicester beat the Borough for the League Cup. But not that I'm bitter, not that I hold grudges. It was amazing because I was in the Six Medals. We were doing Matchday Live on the Red ahead of the Borough game, and the pub was full of Borough fans and there were a smattering of Blackburn Rovers fans, but people couldn't take their eyes off the screens. They were just watching this game in awe of the game. It was tremendous. And I was sitting next to a guy called Peter who was a Blackburn fan, and we were having a good chat about football in between doing the live stuff on the radio, and he was saying they could win this, and then obviously 1-1, 2-1, Wolves in the lead, and he goes, oh, what a shame. But it was VAR that helped, wasn't it? It was that long delay on VAR, and it added more time, and Coventry used it to full advantage, and bang bang. Thank you very much. It's all over. Good night, Wolves. And look, hugely disappointing about Robbins and the way that he goaded that ball boy with the winner, and the poor lad burst into tears. Absolutely wrong, and he should get pilloried. And he has come out and apologised and said it was wrong. He has. He just said it was the emotion of the situation. But look, cracking. It's just that beauty of the FA Cup strikes again.
Yeah, and Robbins obviously gets the opportunity to manage against Manchester United, which the irony's not wasted there because obviously Robbins' goal was the one that is acclaimed to have saved Sir Alex Ferguson's career. They wouldn't have had the run that they did under Sir Alex Ferguson had he got the sack that year. But we've got plenty to talk about in the second half of the North East Footy Brekky show. I'm going to be talking about Chris Wood. Was he the one that got away for Newcastle, and which other players do you think have left your club and you wish they hadn't? Jurgen Klopp, we're talking about him storming off an interview, as Dave mentioned earlier, and also he said that Liverpool's rivalry with Manchester United isn't any bigger than others. So what is the biggest rivalry in football? TV coverage, is it getting worse? And we'll also be looking ahead to the England games over the course of the international week, and Marcus Rashford and Jack Grealish are potentially facing a battle to make the squad Gareth Southgate gets. But time for some news. We will be back after this.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink, the North East Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve and Ted.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Little bit of a musical interlude while the boys go and recharge their glasses. It is a bit of John Farnham right across the North East on the Cat, the Red and the Toon. We are talking the weekend's footy on the North East Footy Breakfast Show. A couple of WhatsApps coming in. If you'd like to send yours, you can. 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. Love to hear your views.
We have the chance to turn the pages on. We can write what we want to write. We gotta make ends meet before we get much older. We're all someone's daughter. We're all
John Farnham, you're the voice across the North East on the North East Footy Brekky. Hey, right, wasn't he an Aussie? Isn't he an Aussie?
Oh, wasn't he? Wasn't he? He was a fantastic Australian, that guy. My goodness me. He just went on the farewell tour for about 8 years too long, though. That's about the only issue I've got with John Farnham, is that he was on the farewell tour and, amazing hair. Fantastic hair. Fantastic hair.
Just Steve Wraith, chairman of the Hair Appreciation Society.
We've got a WhatsApp in. What's up? Yeah, thanks. Oh, well done, Steve. He's getting into the spirit of it. Good lad. It is from Daniil. So it is a Newcastle. It is apt. It's a Newcastle WhatsApp. Morning, gents.
Morning, Daniil.
The FA Cup is still the Premier Cup competition for me. Pleased for Coventry at the weekend. Shades of 87. In that great final against Spurs. My uncle, who sadly passed away on Christmas Eve, was a big Sky Blues fan and was a season ticket holder at Highfield Road. He will be looking down and smiling. Great show as usual, lads.
Thanks, Daniil. Thank you.
Nice message,
Welcome
mate.
back to the North East Footy Brekky show, and still plenty to get through on this bright Monday morning. Might not be as hot as Australia or Cyprus, but we've definitely got the sun
We've
shining.
just had a yellow storm warning, mate.
Oh, have you? Yeah.
Yeah. If I go, the thunder has struck.
And yeah, as I say, plenty to talk about on the show this morning, and as always, we will kick off with some football headlines.
Magpies and Proud. Mags News.
Newcastle's FA Cup campaign came to an end at the Etihad on Saturday evening as a pair of unfortunate deflections decided the quarter-final tie. Two first-half Bernardo Silva shots wickedly ricocheted off Dan Burn and Sven Botman, while Alexander Isak failed to convert either of a pair of chances that could have given his side a foothold in the contest. There was better news for Newcastle's women's team as goals from Elson, McQuaid and Barker saw them come from 2-0 down to win 3-2 at Wolves yesterday, which sees them maintain their lead at the top of the table. And despite a 4-1 win in Nottingham Forest last weekend, Saturday saw Newcastle under-18s again struggle on home territory, Stoke becoming the fifth successive side to leave Little Benton with maximum points, winning by 4-2. And there has been confirmation that Newcastle's under-21s will face Ashington in their Northumberland Senior Cup semi-final at Woodhorn Lane on Tuesday, April the 9th this year. Kick-off will be at 7:30. That's your Newcastle headlines on Monday the 18th of March.
Mackems and Proud. Black Cats News.
Good morning, Sunderland fans. The Sunderland players were once again criticised for their toothless performances against QPR at the weekend, but one man who came out under praise was keeper Anthony Patterson. The 23-year-old bagged his 9th clean sheet of the campaign on Saturday, pulling off an unbelievable save late on to ensure Sunderland didn't fall to defeat once again. The clean sheet marked Patter's 100th consecutive start in the league, which given his age is a highly commendable achievement. One of the names on the bench that may have stood out for Sunderland fans at the weekend was Oliver Bainbridge, who made the senior Black Cat squad for the first ever time. The 18-year-old left-back may not be around for much longer though, as he's now been targeted by a Premier League club ahead of the summer. Everton are reportedly keeping tabs on Bainbridge following his performances at under-21 level this season. He's tipped to get into the Black Cat side before season reaches its conclusion, so fans can probably expect to see the teenager make more appearances in the squad over the final weeks. And finally, Sunderland women suffered a narrow defeat against London City Lionesses at Princes Park. Ruisha Littlejohn's first half strike was the difference between the two sides as the host claimed the 3 points. The Lasses do remain top by a point, with Palace just behind with a game in hand. The Black Cats women will be looking to bounce back, and the River Weir Derby is up next as they host Durham women at Eppleton Colliery next Sunday, kick-off at 2 p.m. They are your Sunderland headlines.
Smoggies and Proud. Borough News.
Good morning, Borough fans! Happy Monday. Hope you're all fantastic, safe and well. Middlesbrough played out a luckless draw when Blackburn came to town. Both teams showing flashes of brilliance, but neither being able to find the back of the net. It took 2 incredible saves from Seni Dieng to keep Blackburn goalless, and it would be Borough's inaccuracy that would ultimately cost them. Boroughs arguably were on top until the 17th minute, at which point Marcus Forss went down with a bad hamstring injury. Marcus had trouble with his hamstring previously, and unfortunately this one looked bad, with Marcus in tears as he left the ground. It just adds to what has been a terrible season for Borough, who are also missing star defender Rab Vandenberg after a bad knee twist he suffered at Birmingham to shock the game's day squad. Borough now head into a 2-week break with the international football as on the cards. Borough's Aussie trio Sammy Silvera, Riley McGree and Tom Glover all head down under to face Lebanon, while Finn Azaz earned his first international call-up to the Republic of Ireland. Senny Dieng will also travel with Senegal, and Paddy McNair will link up with Northern Ireland to complete a total of 6 Borough players to be given international call-ups. Borough will then return with 8 games remaining in the season, and with that illustrious playoff spot reaching further away, Borough will know it would most likely take all 8 wins to even get close. But dare to dream, Borough fans, it's still not over yet. Enjoy your 2-week breaks. Up the Borough.
The Doom, the Red and the Cat.
Welcome back to the North East Footy Brekky show. Chris Wood, a former striker of the St James's Park Parish, has scored another crucial goal for Nottingham Forest at the weekend, and I got to be honest, I think he was the one that got away, especially when you see the way that this season has panned out with Callum Wilson and Isaac failing to go through the season without spending some considerable time on the sidelines. Might not have been the 20-goal striker, Chris Wood, but certainly can score goals in crucial games and give you that different option. Nottingham Forest, of course, benefited from Wood's availability with an important hat-trick in a key game as well earlier in the season. But yeah, ones that got away, lads. Other players that have got away. I've been giving this a bit of thought with Newcastle. I mean, John Dahl Thomason, poor striker at St James's Park, has to be said, came in when Newcastle had sold Les Ferdinand, and obviously Alan Shearer was injured in a pre-season friendly at Everton, and John Dahl Thomason was left as the lone striker, when in fact he was probably best placed as a number 10, somebody to play behind the front two, and he then went off and ended up being a Champions League winner. Going back in time, Frank Clark, Newcastle deemed him surplus to requirements and past his best when they got rid of him at St James's Park, and he went on to Nottingham Forest, where he won a second division title, a first division title, and 2 European Cups. So I'm sure he doesn't regret leaving St James's Park. So Ted, can you think of players from Sunderland who you think, I wish the club hadn't let him go?
Yeah, there's, when you put this, there was 4 that came to mind straight away, and weirdly, they're all probably around about the same era, although one of them was later on. Darren Bent, obviously, probably the biggest one out of the lot. Yeah. I think, had we held on to Darren Bent, then I think the story would have been a lot different for Sunderland. In and around that time as well, we had Malbronk and Zenden, who decided to kind of step back from Premier League football, I think a season too early. Malbronk, for me, is one of the most talented footballers. I don't think he gets high enough praise, to be honest. He was exceptional with his feet, so skillful. And Zenden, yeah, it was towards the end of his career. We didn't have him like sort of in his prime, I guess, as Middlesbrough did. But there was some real high quality about Zenden. He scored one of the most memorable goals I've ever seen at the Stadium of Light as well. It was a great volley against Spurs. But it wasn't about goal scoring, it wasn't about tearing down the wing, it was about just being able to caress the ball, beautiful passing, just a superb technician. So yeah, and the other one was Yunus Kabul. Kabul was another one who decided he wanted to be back down south. This is as Allardyce left to become England manager, and obviously we've got David Moyes in, and the rest is history. But I think if Kabul had stayed, things would have been a lot different. So they were the 4 for me that I was disappointed at the time to see go. And as time goes on, their 4 departures had massive effects on the club as well.
What about you, Rye? Any Middlesbrough players that spring to mind who you wish? Yeah, go on.
Heaps, mate, heaps. I mean, every Borough player that leaves, I seem to shed a tear. Maybe I'm too connected to them, but look, in recent times, the big one is obviously Chuba Akpom, letting him go after he scored 29 goals in the season to go to Ajax, where it hasn't, you would argue it hasn't worked out for him there. That's one that stings. Back in the day, Mark Schwarzer, after a record amount of appearances for our club, was absolutely fantastic. And then to let him go, that one hurt as well from my point of view. In recent years as well, Even the Matty Crooks one just recently in January. I mean, that one, I know it was past it. And so at some point, these boys have all got to go. It's football, and I get it. But, some leave a lasting impression, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch. There's definitely been some players that I've connected with over the years more than not. Tunkai Sun Lee back in the day as well. Tunkai Sun Lee was fantastic when we came down to the championship and we let him go to be a bit part player at Stoke, although he did come back to bite the club, which left a few people upset. But I think Tunkai Sun Lee was a fantastic player when he was with us. And, when we dropped out of the Premier League, we lost a few of those boys then as well. So, yeah, look at players come and go, don't they? And it's hard when I maybe get a little bit too connected to them. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when Riley McGree eventually leaves the Borough. We'll probably have to shut down the station for 3 weeks. Otherwise, you'll just hear crying on the radio breakfast show for 3 weeks. But look, it's football. Players go to try and chase better opportunities. We see right now Marcus Tavernet, who left the Borough. He's killing it for Bournemouth, and he was a Borough youngster through and through. And we would have loved to have kept Marcus Tavernet, but at some point these boys want to chase bigger dreams and bigger successes, and you got to wish them all the best. But there's definitely a fair few names in there for the Borough that I'd love back. But just on the Chris Wood one as well, it's an interesting one that for me, and I wanted to ask you, Steve, do you feel like that one was one of the very first FFP decisions that Newcastle were forced? In fact, that in the point that maybe Eddie Howe didn't actually want to let Chris Woods go, but in order to fund the ESACs and all that sort of stuff, they had to get Woods off the books?
Yeah, 100%. I think he was forced into that sale, and I think they're probably pointing at his age, pointing at the fact that they could get money back on him. A quick turnaround, really. Without a game plan to bring another striker in, that's what left me scratching my head. They never ever replaced Chris Wood, and I know he wasn't popular. I know he wasn't he wasn't like an Alexander Isak type player or a Callum Wilson type player, but he gave you something different. And when you think back to some of the games now this season where players have probably had to play injured, we could have done with him, or a game where maybe we've got a narrow win and a narrow lead. You bring them on to hold the ball up. That's all you need, somebody to hold the ball up. And we've got midfielders who can score goals and open defences. And that we just missed that target man. Isak's not a target man. He's more of a winger. He likes to drift out to the left and cut inside. And yeah, I think it was a mistake on behalf of the club. I think when you look back on this period of time, you'll look back and say, maybe we should have kept a hold of him. But yeah, I do agree. I think it's FFP. The biggest one, of course, before we go to the next break, is Alan Shearer. He was on Newcastle United's books. We had Alan Shearer as a player, and the rumour of him playing in goal is an exaggeration. Everyone took a turn at five-a-side in goal when they were training. He was playing as a striker at St James's. They just didn't think he was good enough. He went to Southampton, became the youngest person to score a hat-trick in the Premier League on his debut, and the rest is history. We had to break the world record to bring him back home for 15 million. You wonder whether Bobby Clark could be in the next category of players who Newcastle regretted letting go. He's doing well at Liverpool. He's already won his first medal, and ultimately Newcastle, if they want him back, may have to pay big bucks to bring him back. But 8:20, this show is flying over. After the break, we're going to talk a little bit about TV coverage, and is it getting worse?
From Wickham to Whitley Bay, Stonygate to Shields, Doggy to Darlow Backlane, Steve, Ted and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
The one I regret letting go away. Now, not many people know this. They'll have heard of the Diego Forlan Borough were in for him. Manchester United nicked him. Apparently, that was not the case. He was always going to go to Manchester United. However, 12 months before that, a mate of mine who's sadly no longer with us, he was a bit of an owl. He was a bit of a Rye type, from a UK perspective. He stayed up during the night. He would have a couple of hours kip at the end of the night shift, and that would be him set. So he used to watch a lot of.
That's what I do.
Well, there you go. South American football was on in the UK at that time. And he's a huge footy man. I mean, we've talked about him. He was the guy who set up Billingham Strollers that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. One of the most successful non-league football teams amateur teams in the UK. And he'd spotted one of these players in Argentina, and it was Forlan. And he made a VHS tape. That's how far back it goes. And he presented it to Middlesbrough Football Club, to the guy who was chief scout at the time. And he said, have a look at this guy. I've been watching him for months. He's banging in the goals. He looks he looks something special. And it was a good few weeks after when he bumped into him. And Pete said, what do you think of the player? No better than what we've already got. We're not going to pursue it. And that was the Borough's view 12 months before Forlan signed for Manchester United. So that's one that we didn't actually have, but maybe we had a chance of getting that we let go away.
Okay, TV coverage, is it getting better or worse, lads? I think it's getting worse. 2 occasions yesterday, Chelsea versus Leicester. We missed important moments due to replays being played. Even Martin Keown at one point actually said, we were watching a replay. So, he clearly is watching some of the TV footage rather than watching what's in front of him, which I found a bit bizarre. But yeah, we seem to be getting more replays and missing what's going on the pitch. And we also have commentators and guests in the studio who seem to be over the top biased about their teams. And there always seems to be an imbalance. For instance, on Saturday night, Newcastle against Manchester City, Alan Shearer and Shea Given were in the studio alongside Gary Lineker. Look, yes, there was Manchester City representation, but 2 against 1, it's not right. And I don't agree with that, whether it's Newcastle players or whether it's people against Newcastle players. We seem to have a lot of former Sunderland players who commentate on Newcastle games for some reason. Whenever there's a big match on Sky, they seem to get wheeled in. People who've got an affiliation with your rival, and it does wind people up the wrong way. It's the equivalent of having Alan Shearer commentating on a Sunderland game, and it doesn't make sense when there's a plethora of ex-Newcastle players who could be brought in to do the job. Have one from each team and have them go at each other hammer and tongs if that's what you want to do. But make sure there's balance. That's all I'm saying. But it's the TV angles that concern me more than anything else. We seem to be losing. We seem to be losing parts of the game because they're too busy showing replays and messing on the screen. So I mean, again, this is interesting because you guys obviously are in 2 different parts, of the world, Cyprus and Australia. Rai, I'll come to you first. With regards to this, the coverage of the Premier League for you, what is it as biased, and does it sound biased to you? Say if you're watching a Newcastle game, are they being overly critical of Newcastle? Are they having a go at Newcastle? Are they, or is it completely different in Australia, the coverage?
I mean, it's. I think it's different. I mean, we have like a team of Aussie ex Premier League players that sort of either talk over the top or have like a halftime and full time show sort of thing. And obviously we have that through Optus Sport, and that's that's like Mark Schwarzer and Mark Bosnich, Robbie Slater, those types of lads, and they seem to they do it, and they're not really biased at all. I would argue. I mean, we're as Australians, the only sort of bias we've got is probably at the moment is to Ange Postecoglou, because whatever he says seems to make the morning news and night news at the moment, because everyone's just loving him. And I think that's a big reason why Tottenham are coming here now in May, because he just seems to be everywhere. But in terms of like the bias of it, we don't really experience that here. And I think we often get Martin Tyler as well, who I think is one of the most fantastic commentators of them all. So I haven't really experienced that. We don't really get that match of the day experience that you guys get in the UK, I believe. And obviously with the Borough stuff, I go through the Borough TV every day. I got a season pass through that. So I get the BBC T's coverage. So I get Maddo and Mark Drury and stuff like that. And, they're obviously biased. And, I'd hate to see me in any commentating situation, because the amount of bias I'd have for the Borough is unbelievably bad. So I get where you're coming from.
Not wrong with that.
And I get that.
Not wrong with that in the right atmosphere, in the right environment.
Yeah, exactly. So, if I was on a national, international sort of stage where I was meant to be commentating on the teams or the game itself, then of course that needs to be put away, because you're going to irk someone up the wrong tree. They're going to have a bad day with their team's losing, whatever's happening. They might have, whatever it may be. You cannot show any sort of affiliation. And, it's that way of going through all these ex-players to become commentators. They weren't born commentators. They haven't done any, work in journalism or anything like that. You know what I mean? They're just footballers that have become pundits sort of thing. And obviously they've got affiliations with each club. And, you never know. You might get a player on there that, wanted to go to Newcastle United, but they said he wasn't good enough. And then he's, hated Newcastle United ever since. And, now he word about. People hold grudges for us, and it can make for really poor TV. And we had that situation on the weekend, Steve, where we hit the post, and I was watching a replay, and I came back, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, it was such a a close chance," blah 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 blah. And I'm like, "What?" And I didn't know what had happened, because we'd watching a replay of what something had happened previously. And during that time, while we're watching the replay, Barrow went and hit the post. So it is very, very frustrating when a replay is going on top of live football. They really need to get on top of showing the replays at the right time.
But that's more your director's responsibility. He's the guy who chooses the shots and tells. He could be self-switching the cameras. He could be. But he's certainly calling the shots if he's not self-switching. You'd have a video switcher sitting next to him doing what he tells them to do. So, it's a bit like Mark Schwarzer. There's a bit of a stink amongst Borough fans at the moment over Mark Schwarzer because of those Chelsea games, and he was labelled on Sky's coverage as former Chelsea player Mark Schwarzer, and Borough fans quite rightly were irked that it didn't mention, the huge amount of games that he played for the Borough, and the fact he's gone down in history as Borough's best ever keeper. But that wasn't Schwarzer's fault. That's a graphic operator's fault who didn't know he had connections with Middlesbrough, so put up Chelsea. It's and this is this irks me a bit, because camera switching is not the commentator's fault. Graphics under a footballer's name is not the footballer's fault, and fans have got to appreciate that. So it goes back to your question. It's not just commentary. Is football coverage as good now, or is it slipping? That's the key thing for me. And I think you're getting people who are not true football people who are getting into certain positions, and the coverage is suffering because of it.
Certainly is. Ted, your thoughts on it? What's it like in Cyprus? I mean, are you getting feeds from the UK? Are you getting different commentators?
So yeah, I mean, just picking up on the theme from Dave there, which is bang on. So I pay around about €12.50, so a tenner a game basically for a streaming pass for a Sunderland game. And yeah, in the defence of the commentators, they're reliant on an EFL cameraman. So they can't take any direction from the studio. The studio don't know what's going to be shown next, and there's that sort of disengagement from the two. What I would be critical of, though, is, yes, exactly, non-football people getting into these positions. So with Sunderland, you've got Frankie, who was a singer in a band. I don't believe he has any sort of footballing credentials behind him. And when you're watching a game and you're already watching a team that's been beaten 6 times in a row, and you get the comment of, literally Sunderland had a corner, and he went, "Oh, the referee's blown there, I think it's for offside." And you kind of go, "What? Are you being serious?" And it's just the level of guff that comes from some of these, and it's not just Frankie. I'm not just having a good.
It's not just local.
No, it's not just local at all. No, it's right across the lot. I mean, I lost the feed. Was this maybe his last season? It was a Blackpool game, so it might have actually been even back in the League One days. I had to switch and listen to the Blackpool commentary, which was just 2 old men, and dare I use the term donkey wallopers when my missus is in the next room. And literally, I mean, it was the most painful footballing experience of my life, and I've had my nose broken and 2 ribs cracked. It was just absolutely awful to listen to. So yeah, the standard is slipping. I will say though, Steve, that Shea Given played for both Man City and Newcastle. I know obviously he's more recognised.
I was going to raise that.
He's more recognised as a Newcastle player, of course he is. There's another one actually to add to the list as well, mate. Just a neat little segue. What players we shouldn't have ever let go? We had Shea Given on loan from Blackburn Rovers. He returned to Blackburn and then signed for you lot, and then the rest is history. It was fantastic. Yeah. Brilliant player.
Was he at Borough as well, was he?
He was at Borough on loan as well, yeah. He's done all 3.
Came on loan.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 16 games, no goals.
Strangely enough. By the way, on that subject, Caroline from the Early Breakfast Show, she's listening at work.
Morning,
should
Caroline.
be doing work, Caroline. She says, players we let go we should never have done. George Friend.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a female slant there, isn't there?
Now he's got to be. As a football director at Bristol Rovers, my goodness, what he could do. Come back home, Georgie.
Biggest rivalries in football, lads. Jurgen Klopp doesn't agree that Liverpool's rivalry with Manchester United is any bigger or more important than it is with the other top teams. For me, Newcastle-Sunderland is always going to be the biggest rivalry. I still think it's feistier than most derbies. Certainly in the UK, Celtic Rangers is probably the one that usurps. The kind of atmosphere that you get because it's based on religion. Their dislike for each other. It cuts a lot deeper than just football. But Newcastle and Sunderland, for something that's simply football, is for me is the feistiest. I can't really see any of the London derbies. I know Arsenal, Spurs have got their thing going on, but London clubs play so many derbies that they're playing a derby every other week, so I almost feel as if they're used to it, whereas Newcastle Sunderland is they're few and far between over the years as to when they've both been in the same division. They've all had their turn being in the top division and the other one being below them and not getting the opportunity to play each other. So but I still think you're hard pushed in this country to find a derby bigger than that. Jurgen Klopp, though, says that the rivalry with Liverpool and Manchester is not more important than any other game against the big teams. And Liverpool-Everton is their derby. Liverpool-Manchester United became a TV thing, with TV coverage getting bigger and better, and and because they were both doing so well. You had, I think it was almost a crossover of eras as well. You had the Liverpool team of the 80s who won everything and beat everybody. Crossed over to the Manchester United team under Fergie, which suddenly started winning everything and went on to dominate football for 20 years. And I think that's where that rivalry has come from. Similarly, for a much shorter period, when Newcastle's entertainers were a team, we had this rivalry with Manchester United, and it's created by the media to get you to sit and watch the games and to watch the games that these two teams play. That kind of dislike for each other goes on to this day now, the Newcastle Manchester, because of the certain fans who are still around, who remember those games in that particular era, and the fact that Manchester United pipped us to the title that year. But Ted, it's rivalries. Do you agree with Jurgen Klopp, first of all, that Liverpool and Manchester United is not as big as any other game that they play against, say, the likes of City or Arsenal?
It's interesting you mention it, because for me, I only remember Liverpool versus Manchester United really being a big thing because of an episode of Cracker. and I think about the one I mean as well, with Robert Carlyle.
Yeah, L-I-V-E-R-P double-O-L, Liverpool FC.
And he made that up himself as well. That was absolutely incredible. That was never a chant at Liverpool, but Robert Carlyle made that. Now, what a fantastic piece of acting, by the way, that was. Anyway, we're getting off subject slightly. I only remember it historically from a TV show, and like you say, the media kind of building it up. There was Liverpool, who were the all-conquering champions of the 1980s. Manchester United took over that mantle and then some in the 90s as well. And I think it's probably been more manufactured as a rivalry than anything else. The classics, yes, of course, Liverpool-Everton in the 80s was a great derby. The likes of Peter Reid and all that lot playing for Everton. Man United, Man City probably is in the media is less so of a derby than what the Manchester United-Liverpool one is. It's weird, really. But yeah, I mean, getting back to it, of course, for us, there's only ever going to be one derby, and that's Newcastle-Sunderland. And for me, nothing ever replaces that. To have two rival cities going at that, the one club cities as well, which obviously just heightens that whole emotion of it all. Around here, in Cyprus, we do have some similar tasty jobs as well. But it's weird over here. You have clubs like, the one that I follow, North East Famagusta, which are relocated from one city into Larnaca because of the invasion and all that. Yet you've got AEK Larnaca, who were playing in the UEFA trophy last season. The derbies between them two, honestly, is absolutely incredible. The atmosphere in the town is just electric. So it's weird. It all depends on your standpoint. If you're a fan of that club, then of course, in your mind and in your heart, those derbies are going to be absolutely massive. And long may they continue as well, because there's nothing like a derby day.
No, definitely not. Same for you, Rai. I mean, Klopp's saying that Liverpool versus Manchester. Yeah, Liverpool versus Manchester United's not as big as the other games that they play. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think he's just a bit salty, to be honest with you. We've seen the worst of you.
He had a bad
he's wanted his swan song. He did. And I think he wanted his swan song to be able to go out on a big high and have an FA Cup victory to his name, I reckon. But it wasn't to be. And I think he was just salty, just having a bit of a crack, trying to play it down a bit. But for me, it's Liverpool, Everton. It's Manchester United versus City. And to be honest with you, experiencing Newcastle Sunderland this season was wild for me as well. Something I've never really paid attention to because obviously just focusing on the Borough, but being able to be involved with that this season was arguably one of the most fiercest sort of build-ups I've ever seen. And it was just incredible to see how much the North East take that rivalry seriously. So yeah, I think Borough's still trying to look for that one. I mean, we've got a little bit in Sunderland, obviously, a little bit in Leeds as well, but there isn't sort of, I guess, unless a Hartlepool or something comes up to the championship, then there's no traditional kind of rival there. As much as the Sunderland one is a derby, but
Newcastle is too.
We are looking
in the same breath. Same breath as Sunderland. Newcastle is too. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I would agree. So, but yeah, look, I think the greatest rivalry they're probably looking for can be found right here on the North East Brekky show, because me and Ted we're starting to get irritated with Ted. You know what I mean? Just the way he comes in and sits there and goes 41,000 in attendance when we know it was like 19,000. On the weekend, you know what I mean? And he's like, I'm in Cyprus and my weather's great. Oh, now I've got a
Mate, even if it was 19,000, it's still more season ticket holders than you get at a game.
We're just getting
we had that discussion yesterday. If they were £2.50, mate, we'd all buy, Just because we price ourselves a little bit higher than you lot means we sell a little bit less. But
you mean you rip your fans off and that's why they complain and want
£2.50 in a pack of crisps, mate. If it wasn't for the fact I'm an avid Borough fan, I'd buy one too.
Of course. Yeah. The fact that we offer our fans more value, that gives you bragging rights.
If that's how you want to frame it, mate, you go ahead and frame it that way. And we know the truth.
Dave, what about you, mate? Rivalries?
I think Klopp had a bad day. I think Liverpool, Manchester United is still a massive rivalry in the eyes of the fans because they're only 35 miles apart or something ridiculous, 40 miles apart. It's a bit like Borough and Sunderland and Newcastle. A lot of fans won't, like Ted won't. It's not a derby. It's not a derby. It is. If you don't want to label it a derby, it's a game you must win against that lot. Klopp had a bad day. Yes, there's Liverpool-Everton. It's the old traditional one because of how Merseyside had two great clubs. But I love derby games. I've been to many. I've been to lots of them. And, north of the border, you've got Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, Rangers. That's based down religious and political divides. You've got City United, the noisy neighbours. Never really was hugely massive until City got the investment, and now United are the noisy neighbours. But Leeds United, I don't mean Leeds United the club, I mean Leeds Manchester United's another one where the fans are just so hell bent on putting one over on the others when those two meet, and it's going to happen again next year the way Leeds are playing. I've refereed derby matches. I refereed one in India, for God's sake, East Bengal Mohun Bagan. There were 110,000 people in the stadium. Fans have known to have been killed in those games, and that's based down caste divides. There's those with the money and those without the money, and that's where the two teams came from. So it's all over the world. Look at Istanbul. You've got Fenerbahce and Galatasaray, one that's on the Asian side of the Bosphorus, the other one that's on the European side of the Bosphorus. So there's rivalry because of that. Derby's a great. Klopp had a bad day. He just didn't want to admit it for some reason.
Yeah, he definitely did. Okay, we are coming towards the end of the show. We're going to have another quick break. After the break, we're going to look ahead to the internationals coming up. International break, of course. I just want to talk about England head coach Gareth Southgate, who has warned a couple of players they might face a battle to make the Euro 2024 squad for Germany.
Are you in your car listening? Hi, it's Bernie Slavin. Looking forward to being on every Monday on The Red between 6 and 7. Opinions, views. I don't want any BS.
We need to get their lottery numbers for Wednesday night, I think, or Saturday, definitely.
If Porter's 1-0 up and you all do what you're going to do and we end up getting beat 2-1, are you going to take any responsibility for that?
Regardless of what happens in the game, it needs to be done just to make the point. That's the point of it. The protest is supposed to be disruptive. It's supposed to get our voice heard.
No messing about. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. This Monday, 6 o'clock to 7, please join us up the borough.
Slaven Live with the Dovecart. Spend your evening in the best bar in Teesside.
Are you in your car listening to this? Because if you are, I'm going to make a bet with you. And I'm pretty confident I'm going to win. Right, it goes, okay. I bet you're running late. All right, forget that. It's too obvious. Okay, I bet someone's cut you up already today. No? Hang on. No, I know. No, this is the one. I bet you're driving too fast at this precise moment. If a child ran out in front of you now, could you stop? Think. Slow down.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Welcome back to the North East Footy Brekky show under the final furlong of Monday's show, and England squad was announced. A couple of players in there who raised a few eyebrows. A couple of players who weren't in there raised a few eyebrows as well, and some players will have the words of Gareth Southgate ringing in their ears. Marcus Rashford and Jack Grealish both face a battle to make the Euro 24 squad for Germany, says Gareth Southgate. He's warned them that they need to improve. Marcus Rashford didn't get off to the best of starts with his audition yesterday, it has to be said. Missed a hatful of chances yesterday in the game, despite Manchester United running out 4-3 winners against Liverpool. Jack Grealish had an indifferent season, probably still recovering from a hangover after last year's treble celebrations. But those two players facing competition from some big names who've been called up. Anthony Gordon, of course, Newcastle United's midfielder, has been called upon for these couple of friendlies. Jared Branthwaite was in the England squad as well, and of course, you've got the likes of Bellingham, who is in there, Maddison, Gallagher, and of course the infamous Jordan Henderson, who no matter how old he is, he'll always get picked by Gareth Southgate. But yeah, I mean, look, you listen to what Gareth Southgate says there. He's got a lot of players who he can select in the midfield and forward areas. Defenders, we seem to be struggling with a little bit more. Quality defenders. We've got there are English defenders there, of course, but there seems to be a lack of quality. And when you think about it, Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier, who doesn't make this squad because he's injured, but those two are the wrong side of 30. We are struggling a little bit in that department, but I guess I can see where he's coming from with regards to, especially to Grealish, that you've got to book your ideas up, son. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself out on your rear, Ted.
Yeah. Grealish is going to have to book his ideas up because Jordan Henderson's already guaranteed a space in the squad. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. Harry Maguire obviously is going to be there. Look, you could argue his form's been better than what it has been, but at the same time, you look at the surefire, well, not starters, but people who are going to get a space in that squad that literally don't deserve one. So I think it would be very harsh. Grealish, when he's played for England, has never ever let England down as far as I'm concerned. I can't remember a time when I've said, Grealish had a stinker of a game. For me, he's one of them, and if he does get fit in time, of course, that goes without saying, but you've got to take a Jack Grealish because they're the players that are capable of that moment of magic. And this is, I mean, going back into history, it always used to annoy me that Matt Letizia never used to get picked for England because he's never going to do, he's never going to cover 10 kilometres in a game or anything like that. But producing that one moment of magic, and I think that's being taken out of football gradually. It's all about fitness levels. It's all about, what the stats say and all this sort of thing. Look, it isn't always about that. And, the magician players are getting largely ignored or excluded from squads like this. Hoddle did it with Gascoigne in '98. We all knew that Gascoigne should have gone in that squad, and that moment of magic was missing from the squad, and that's why they came home early. So, listen, you know my feelings on Southgate. I don't think he's fit enough to be England manager. To be honest, I think his squad selection is iffy at best. I agree on the defenders side of things. Walker, though, he's still one of the quickest players in the Premier League, believe it or not, in his 30s. I think Walker can go on and play another few years at the top level by moving into centre-back, where when that pace does start to dissipate a little bit, he's still got that ability as a very, very solid defender as well. So I think Walker might be okay for a little while longer yet. But, I think it's... Listen, for me, hopefully it's Southgate's last tournament as England manager, and we get to see some people getting picked on actual form and ability in the future.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Obviously, looking out, from the outside in, it's not really something again that I've paid too much attention to, being an Aussie through and through. But it's, as I said to you last week, Steve, this for me is England's best chance to win the Euros by far. The squad that he's got to pick from. If Southgate doesn't get to that final, then serious questions need to be asked, because these players he's got, plus them on form, when he's talking about leaving the likes of Rashford and all this sort of stuff out, incredible, isn't it? Incredible with Bellingham and Phil Foden as well, Harry Kane up front, and then, that maybe the defence has got a little bit of questions in it, but it's still good enough to do some magical things this Euros. And to see the squad, we've been asking for Anthony Gordon for a long time, you know what I mean? We've been looking at some of these youngsters and going, give them a chance. Well, it kind of looks like in the friendlies that he's willing to do that, and he's maybe willing to turn over a new leaf. And then you see Jordan Henderson picked, and you're just like, what's going on? And if he's going to pick Jordan Henderson, then I'm disgusted that he hasn't gone for Johnny Howson, the 35-year-old goat from Borough's midfield in the Championship. He's been playing absolutely spectacular football, and it would make Jordan Henderson look like Isaac Hayden. Because he's just that good. So if you're going to pick Jordan Henderson, Southgate, then look no further than Johnny Howson, the 35-year-old superstar, captain, midfield maestro that is the Borough midfielder and captain.
I love it.
Wow.
I want to ask a quick one, because this really did come from the weekend's games. But the winner for Manchester United, a wonderful goal as well. Yeah. However,
Teddy boy.
Yeah, a red card. 2 yellows equals a red. So you get dismissed after scoring the winner in a goal like that. And that really is crazy. Is it time to scrap this? Taking a yellow card for taking your shirt off. Ted?
100%. Of course it is. It's ridiculous. Look, it's an emotive game. You get into a point in the game, 120 minutes plus 1 minute of added time, and he scores a winner to take his team through to Wembley. It's absolutely astounding that this is still a thing, that you're getting a yellow card for that. I saw Liverpool players twice kick the ball away and not a yellow card shown for it. So if we're going to administer rules properly, let's administer all of them or none of them. It was really annoying. Obviously, apparently, to all intents and purposes, Ahmad forgot that he'd been booked earlier for.
He did. He said in his interview afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, but on the performance itself, so yes, it absolutely should be taken out of the game. It's ridiculous, a yellow card for that, but absolutely delighted for the kid. There was nobody cheered louder than what I did when he got that winner, because he's a special talent, and obviously. We got to see firsthand, and Sunderland fans were lucky to see firsthand what a talent this kid is. Absolutely chuffed for him.
Right, it is crazy, isn't it? To see, especially because it spoiled that moment, and it spoiled it for. Diallo had a smile on his face as wide as the Tyne after that, but he was, or the Weir, bearing in mind his Sunderland connections. But he basically. he basically had that moment ruined for him because he got sent off down the tunnel because of this stupid rule.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Ahmad has had a torrid sort of time since January as well, where you think he was close to Sunderland, but it never really eventuated. And I think he was like, right, Man United probably made some broken promises and not, not delivered, because he had this Instagram spit. I think, was it last week, Teddy Boy, where he deleted everything off Instagram, and Jimmy Coppers was reporting about it as well, and all he left up there was 2 Sunderland photos. So, it's really sad to see, a player of that style not getting the game time, and you can see what he can do. And then to get all that emotion, you got to. It's not just that game; it's everything that's going on in his world of not getting game time. Wanting to prove himself, wanting to show what the Man United fans what he can do, and all this sort of stuff. And then he gets this goal, and he just wants to celebrate as crazy as he can, and takes his shirt off, and he gets yellow carded for it. I mean, they need to remove the yellow card for taking your shirt off in the game and taking your shirt off when you meet your fan, like when you meet Riley McGree or something like that. It needs to stop. Whenever you want to take your shirt off, it should be okay to do, no matter the circumstances. I think whether it's meeting Riley McGree, Sammy Silvera, or Tom Glover, whether it's
take that pass off.
The Jimmy Coppers thing's made us laugh as well. I had a coffee with a respected Newcastle journalist last week, and he said he'd been listening to the North East Footy Brekky show, and he said. He says, have you got a nickname for James Copley? I went, yeah, it's Jimmy Coppers. So he said, next time I see him at a press conference, I'm going to call him Jimmy Coppers. So the new name is spreading fast, lads. The new name is spreading fast.
Look at us. We're trendsetters now. We're trendsetters. If we were on TV, that people would start wearing what we're wearing, 100%. 100%. Unless
for those people For those people who tune in to listen to me Good Morning Britain updates, this morning's big question, bearing in mind that Putin's just got in for another 6 years in Russia, the big question,
that was a genuine vote, wasn't it?
It was. The big question this morning was, should pet owners have the same advantages as parents, i.e. if your pet's sick, you can take time off?
Yes.
And should you also get allowances when your cat has kittens or your dog has puppies?
I'm going to go buy 8.
Should you get maternity leave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 100% you get mat leave. Yeah.
Anyway, 75% yes, 25% no.
Months off as well.
How woke is that?
Give Ted 9 months off when Stelios has kittens. 100%. He needs it.
How woke?
I don't think that's going to happen for Stelios, mate. He's had the equipment removed.
He can still find a way. I believe in him.
Foster, you can foster.
By the way,
he could adopt.
By the way, I just want to go back to Steve's point about taking the shirt off and the yellow card. Yes, it is in the laws of the game that if a player with a goal-scoring celebration covers his head or removes his shirt, then he gets a yellow card. But you know what's also in there, and I'd love to see somebody do this. A player will also, when celebrating a goal, scoring a goal, will be shown the yellow card for covering the head or face with a mask or other similar item.
Oh, like Jonas did with his Spider-Man mask.
Spider-Man, I remember that.
There you go. Yeah.
What about Santa Cruz when he put a Santa hat on?
Not covering his face with a mask or similar item.
I blame Ravanelli. He started this.
He did. It's Fabrizio's fault. That's why they brought it in, didn't they?
And then didn't pay his milk bill when he left Borough.
Yeah, there's lots of stories like that, mate. Lots of stories.
There is. Well, that's it, lads. That is the end of the North East Footy Brekky show this morning. I hope everyone out there has enjoyed it. Thanks to all the WhatsAppers for WhatsApping in from around the world. And what has Daz got to give us this morning?
He's not here. He's sent me a message saying the traffic's terrible. I'm hoping to be there on time.
So, good luck to him then. Well, I know you like to play. I know you like to play out with a tune, so we will play out with a tune, I'm sure, and we can depart this mortal radio station and be back tomorrow morning.
Steve, that sounds a bit final.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Last show, by the sounds of it.
Tell them, get the families prepared. And not aptly named, actually, for Monday morning. I fancied a bit of Cure, so Friday I'm in love. Here we go. See you, boys.
Take care.
Hey, boys.